Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. We have a very exciting update for my product level up today. This is a project that I've done on my channel for a couple of years now, and it's actually a product that I created myself. It's kind of like a mix between Pan Those Eyeshadows, No Pan Left Behind, and a tiny little bit like Pan Palette 2 because you focus on one palette at a time. So how this project goes down is that you have different levels. Currently I'm on level 4, and for each level you have to reach for each shade in the palette the corresponding times as the level you're in, as well as hit that many pans as well. So that means that for level 4 I have to hit 4 pans and use every shade 4 times. However, I do have a little bit of a caveat currently because I am tanning one of my Pat McGrath palettes, and if you are aware of these palettes, if you have them, if you use them, you might know that it's very hard to hit pan on their palettes, both because the shades I'm assuming are really deep. I've never actually hit pan on any of my Pat McGrath palettes. So I'm assuming the shades are really deep. They're also very pigmented, and especially the special shades are so impactful on their own, and they're also very firmly pressed slash baked shadows, which means that again it takes a long time to hit pan. So for this specific palette I have put in a caveat that I can use the shades 20 times instead of pan, but that is not something that I always do in this project. It is mainly just for like Pat McGrath palettes. I've also done it once for one of my big Natasha Denona palettes, you know, the ones that are like the big size. It was the Biba palette. Other than that, I do usually stick to the pan rule. But that is kind of all of the main housekeeping out of the way, and I'm sure you're all dying to see how I've done with my palette. Again, level 4. This is actually the third update that I'm working this palette, so I've been working on it for a long time now, and I'm excited to update you where I'm sitting with it now. But before I jump into that, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So if you haven't been following this project, first up, please go back and look at my previous updates because it's been really fun, and obviously I worked on quite a few palettes this year as well as previous years as well if you want to go way far back. But if you haven't been following this project, I'm currently working on my bronze Seduction palette, so you're looking at what it looked like when I first rolled it in. So it did have a little bit of love, of course. I have used this palette, but like I said, the shades just move very slowly. So this is what the palette looked like after the first month of use. I had used, you know, all of the shades quite a bit. I had hit my usage goal on a couple. I had decided on a couple to focus in on as well for my 4 focus shades, but not too much use yet. And then this is what it looked like last month, and I had definitely used it a lot more at that point. I had hit my 20 usage goal on one of the shades, which is the last shade in the palette, Astral Luna Gold, and I was also making good headway on a couple other shades, especially the shade Skin Show Divine Glow, which is the first shade in the palette. So that's what the palette looked like then, and this is what the palette looks like today. So I'm hoping you can see some differences, not on every single shade, but I will of course talk you through which shades I've used and how many times in a second. But this is what the palette looks like right now. So again, I will have the comparison picture always here, but this is what the palette looks like. You might be able to see some dips here and there and some usage, you know, overall, but I'm going to talk you through each shade in order. So since this is the third month that I'm working on this palette, I have mainly just focused on hitting those usage goals, and I had already hit my usage goal, the 4 uses on every single shade apart from one, which I will cover when I get to it. So I was mainly working to those 20 uses. First up in the palette, like I said, I was working on the shade Skin Show Divine Glow, and I had already reached this one quite a bit by the second update I was working on this palette. I had 17 uses on it, and I have reached for it 3 additional times for the 20 uses required, which is amazing. So that one is completed, and that is like the second focus shade that I've hit my 20 use goal on. Then we're going to skip over the shade Entrapment, which is the lightest like matte shade in the palette. I have not reached for that one at all. I actually haven't reached for that one since the first update, where I reached for it 4 times. So that one is ticked off for the 4 uses, but no more than that. Then, however, we do have another one that I decided to be one of my focus shades. I was debating whether this shade or the last shade on the first row was going to be my focus shades, but I decided to go with this one, and this is the shade Bronze Blaze. So this is not one of the special shades, but I decided to go with this one because it's a little bit more versatile, and I've been able to reach for this one a lot on my lower lash line and as like a base shade for my shimmer. I'm actually wearing it that way today, and today is the 20th time I'm reaching for the shadow. I actually only had 4 uses on it last month, so I reached for this shade a lot. I have 16 additional uses on it, of course, for 20 uses, and I have reached this one a lot, like I said, those two ways, either as a base shade for my shimmer on my lid or as a lower lash line shade, or both, and it's been working really well for that. I did also wear it on my nails once, just to help get a little bit of a headway with those uses, because I knew I had a long way to go, especially compared to the other focus shades that I've chosen. So yeah, I did reach for the ones on my nails, but then the other 11 uses were on my eyes. So that shade is also complete and is the third focus shadow finished. Then next to that, we are moving straight on to the next focus shade in the palette, which is the shade Rose Gold 005. This is a special shade in the palette and it's absolutely stunning. I love this shade so much. And as of the last update, I had reached for this shadow 13 times, 6 times in the first update and 7 additional times last month. So I required 7 more uses on it to hit my 20 use gold, and I'm happy to say that I have hit that goal as well today. I'm wearing this one on like the center of my lid. I'm wearing that other kind of bronzy shade, what's it called again, Bronze Blaze, all over like most of my lid, and I left a little bit on in a corner free, but Bronze Blaze and that top the Rose Gold 005 on like the center of the lid, and then on the inner kind of the lighter shimmer that you see is something else. But yeah, that is how I'm using it today, and again I reached that 7th use for the month in this look. So 20 uses on this shade too, which is pretty exciting because I have hit my usage goal. And since, like I said, I already hit my usage goal on the shade Astral Luna Gold, which is the last shade in the palette, I have hit my 4 focus shadows, like the goals on them, which is amazing because that is one of the ticks out of the way. So super excited for that, and we're moving on to the next shade, which is VR Fire Opal, and this is another shade that I decided to potentially focus on. However, I actually haven't reached for it at all, which is a little bit of a shame. I've just been panning so many other eyeshadows that I didn't get around to it. I did mention in some comments when I answered other people that I might reach for this shade a little bit, used to kind of give it some love as it was a potential focus shadow, but again, used had attention elsewhere and it is a little bit neglected because of that. So I'm going to try to make sure to reach for this shade moving forward this year, but again, no more uses in the past month. And then for the second row, I'm actually going to go through this one very quickly because I have only reached for one of those shades, and that is the shade that I had not hit my usage goal on yet, and that is the shade Guilty Pleasure, which is the second shade in the on the second row, which is that kind of more cool toned, I guess, shimmer shade. And yeah, it's just not my type of shade. It's just a little bit too like cool tone and grey leaning for my liking, but it's been okay to reach for, and I was sitting at 1 use on this one at the last update. I actually only reached for it in the first month and then not at all leading up to last update, so I had 3 more uses to go to hit that 4 usage goal, and I'm of course happy to say that I have reached that one. I've been reaching for this one very lightly. All 3 of those uses were on my lower lash line because that's kind of how I've been reaching for it. Of course I could reach for it on my lids too, but it's just not what I've been feeling, so it was an easy way for me to incorporate it by using it on my lower lash line. So that is also complete, and with the rest of the shades I had already hit my 4 usage goal on them. So that means that this palette is finally done for my product level up, and again this is what the shades look like. And just to summarize again, my focus shades were this first shadow right here, this shade right there, this shadow and this shadow, and you can see that probably because those are some of the shades with the biggest dips. This one has a bit of a dip too, but it's just because I usually have to build the one up quite a lot, but I'm really happy with how this is looking. Of course it would be nice to have pan on some of these shades, but I just know how difficult it is to hit pan, but I'm happy that it has some more dips, and you can definitely see that it's a bit more well loved now, which is something that I'm super pleased with, especially for Pat McGrath palette because they are super expensive and sometimes they are a little bit neglected in my collection. So that is this palette right here, and level 4 completed. So because we have finally leveled up from that palette, we are moving on to everyone's favorite times in these updates, at least I think so. I love rolling in new shades and new palettes just to see what you can work on. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to roll in my level 5. Before I do so though, I do want to have a little chat with you guys because well, depending on what I get, we'll see how long it takes me to level up. We do have what do we have, like almost 4 months left of the year, so I could potentially get through level 5, and then the question is if I should reset back to level 1 or continue on past to move into level 6. Realistically, if I move on to level 6, that would probably be all I have time for this year. And if we move up to level 1, I might be able to go for level 1 and level 2 again. So let me know what you guys would prefer. Would you prefer me to work on one palette and get as many pans in that one as I can, because that would potentially lead to more pans? Or would you rather me work on more palettes, which, you know, working on level 1 and level 2 would be less pans but more palettes. So let me know which one you would prefer. I'm kind of split half and half with either, so let me know what you would prefer. I always have reset the product after level 5 before, so it might be fun to try level 6. But again, it's up to you guys, and I would love to hear your opinions in the comments, so let me know. But with that being said, we are going to roll my level 5, and this is my wheel right here. I have added all my new palettes in this wheel, so it is up to date, and the ones that are blacked out are the palettes that I worked on last year or this year, so they are not up for grabs because I do want to give other palettes some love too. If I roll something I really don't want to work on, and I have 3 vetoes that I can use. I might have used 1 veto this year, I can't remember now. Actually, I don't think I have. I can't remember, but I probably won't veto 3 times anyway. Probably, you know, I'll try to veto max once per roll. But I do have that in the back of my mind if I roll something that is going to be either way too difficult for level 5 or something I just really don't want to work on. So we'll see what happens. Also, by the way, I do have some quads in here, so if I roll them, of course I will re-roll because I can't do a quad for level 5. But with that all being said, let's roll for level 5. And I'm a little bit nervous, but we'll see what I get. Rose Quartz. Okay, that's a good palette. I love that palette a lot. It is from Huda Beauty and it's one of my favorite palettes, so that's going to be a good one. It does have a couple pans already, but I don't think it's going to be... I mean, the mattes are difficult to hit pan on, but the shimmers are a little bit easier, so hopefully I should be able to hit 5 pans in that palette rather quickly. It does have a lot of shades though, so the 5 uses will be quite difficult. But let me pull out the palette and show you what it looks like, and I can talk you through my game plan. So here we have the palette. I'm going to roll the footage actually of what it looks like. It is a beautiful, beautiful palette. I do, like I said, already have a few pans in here. I have 4 pans, all in shimmers. And looking at the palette, I actually only have 5 shimmer shades left, so if I want to hit pan on like the easier shades, I would have to hit pan on all of the remaining shimmers, including that kind of jelly-like shade. But I don't know, maybe I'll go for one of the mattes as well. It is again one of my favorite palettes, so it's gonna be fun to show this one some more love, and hopefully, I don't know, we'll see. If you have panned this palette, and especially the mattes, I'm intrigued to know how long it took you to pan on the mattes, because I have found, again, that they are very stiff and hard to work on. But again, let me talk you through what my game plan would be. Actually, I realized there is 6 shimmers in here. I didn't spot empowered, so there is 6 shimmers. But I think, realistically, what I want to do is for sure hit pan on the shade Self Love down here. That could be a nice any corner shade. I don't think that should be so difficult. Also, this shade here is one of my favorites. That is the shade Moon Magic. That one is also easily going to be able to pan on. So those are 2 like definite shades. Then I think for the 3rd pan, I'm also going to go for a shimmer. I'm going to go for the shade Energized, which is a bit more of a cool tone shade and not what I always reach for, but I think it's going to be an easier shade compared to some of the other ones to hit pan on and incorporate. So that's going to be the 3rd pan for sure. Then it comes down to the last 2, which are kind of up for grabs. I, again, might go for one of the matte shades. And I am panning, obviously, my Soft Glam palette. If you're not aware, I'm doing my Soft Glam palette as my panned palette. So that has a lot of kind of brownish mattes. So I think these 2 here are out of the question, because they might just be too similar to that palette. And I mean, also I think with some of these transition shades, although I don't have anything exactly like these in my pan palette, I feel like I have more transition shades in that palette that I need to finish this year, so I'd rather focus on them for transition shades. The 2 that I'm potentially looking at is either Cherished or Happiness, just because they are definitely differently undertoned than what is in my Soft Glam palette. But I don't know, I could also, for example, do this deep shade here and use the one as a liner, maybe pan on it that way. Or I could just do, you know, one of the other 2 shimmer shades, which are these 2. Although I don't feel like I want to use hit pan on the shimmers. I think I want to go for at least one of the mattes, just to hit pan on a matte in Huda Beauty. I never hit pan on Huda Beauty matte again, so yeah, we'll see. But let me know which shades you think I should go for in this palette. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be fun to play with for sure. But it will definitely be a challenge to reach for all of these shades 5 times, because there are 18 shades in here, so that is a lot of uses. And I mean, that might actually be what takes the longest, but we're just going to have to see. I am excited nevertheless to work on this palette. It's definitely one that I want to show more love, and it's getting a little bit older now. It's not like super old or anything in my collection, but it's definitely, you know, collecting a couple years, so it will be good to get some more use out of it and show it some love. And it's also a perfect palette for like winter time. Yes, I mean, we're just getting out of summer now, so autumn kind of is before that, I guess, but I feel like I'm going to be ready to reach for cool tones very soon, so this is a good palette for that. And it is definitely my type of cool tones. It is more of a pinkier kind of undertone palette, which is what I love. So that is going to be it for my Product Level Up update. Let me know how long you think it's going to take me to hit my usage goal and my pans on this palette. My goal will ultimately be to try to do it within 2 months, just so I can work on some other palettes for the rest of the year. But since I rolled such a big palette, it might take me longer than that, but I will really try to get this one out within 2 months, especially because level 4 took so long for me. But I hope you guys are having an amazing day. If you're doing this project, let me know how far you've gotten this year. Have you been able to even reset the project or not? Let me know down below. I will also have the collaboratory playlist for everyone else who's ever done this project down below if you want to check it out, as well as my playlist for previous years. And I hope you guys are having the best day, and I'll catch you in my next one. Bye guys!